Hello, everybody. It's Mike Yao with Fire in the Head Productions, Savage Kingdoms role-playing game, and Red Sun role-playing game. As you can see, the poster behind me of the Red Sun role-playing games, which is something I've been working on for a couple of years now, 2.5 years maybe. As you probably know, I've made videos about this before. We've play tested at DragonCon and also locally here at some couple of game stores that I appear in and do some professional dungeon mastering in, etc. So anyway, recently I've been focusing more on Savage Kingdoms, as you may or may not know if you're one of the 12 people who watch my videos. Um, Otherwise, you probably might have seen it on Facebook or know me personally or something or whatever. So um, yeah, so I've been focusing more on Savage Kingdoms role playing games. So we picked up a publisher there, as you probably know. I made a video about and some posts about on the website and the Facebook groups. Mad Scribe Games is publishing Savage Kingdoms for the next edition, the fourth edition, coming up probably in like April. And then it's been forcing me to focus more on Savage Kingdoms fourth edition because it'll be the fourth edition, right? That's what I'm calling it right now. I might call it something fancier, but probably it'll just be fourth edition. But I don't want to let Red Sun die. I put a lot of work into it, and it's play tested well. It's really kind of weird. And I've probably spoken to this on various videos. Um, that it play tests better, like it's got a better overall audience reception. Overall, SK that still does really well. At say Dragon Con, like people that don't know me, whenever I play test it in a different area with people that don't really know me, Red Sun tends to play test better than Savage Kingdoms. But people that know me, for some reason, SK is better than Red Sun. So it's very, very strange. A strange enigma. I'm trying to wrap my head around it, but it is what it is, as we say. So anyway, all that to be said, uh, that I don't want to let Red Sun die because obviously there's some interest there, and I think it's actually a pretty good game system. Is it better than Savage Kingdoms? I don't know. They're two different things, although they're the same setting. Red Sun is 2,500 years before, set in a Bronze Age coming into the Iron Age. Obviously, it's fantasy, but still, Earth equivalentness with Bronze Age, Iron Age, going into Steel Age. No, that's not a thing, but the secret of steel, when people learn to make even better iron weapons by putting a few ingredients in it to make it steel, the whole thing, if you're into sword and sorcery and Conan, particularly the movie, the riddle of steel, and the whole thing about that stay. I could do a whole video on what all of those various things mean to a deeper degree than most people would probably think. But so yeah, so there's still some interest, as you can see the banner for Red Sun back there. I think I already pointed at it. I was gonna make a couple more as well to put up at places I play test, but like I said, it kind of Red Sun kind of stalled. It didn't make its play test or its Kickstarter, and I kind of like sort of gave up on it and focused more on SK4, which seemed to be more in the zeitgeist again. When I say zeitgeist, I mean like 50 people maybe. But maybe because I've been playtesting and working on Savage Kingdoms Fourth Edition so much, I'm kind of like I wouldn't say I'm getting burned out, but I kind of need to focus on like another game, right? And there's part of me that wants to be that guy that like he's wed to this one game system and this one setting, and in a way it still is, right? But then on the other hand, I'm like I've written like old west type games. I've got a science fiction game. It's not completely dumb, but it's mostly um, in Red Sun, another dark fantasy sword and sorcery game. I even thought about doing a Renaissance, more um, political intrigue kind of thing. Not really my thing. I'm really more of an Dark Ages to Ancient World kind of guy, if you know me. I think there's so much more to be mined there as fantasy. I'm not so sure. Still have not found out why it's largely ignored. Most kind of generic fantasies, I call it high fantasy, set kind of in the high Middle Ages to early Renaissance, which is all well and good. I find that era slightly boring to me. It gets a little muddled, and there's I don't know. I like the era of more heroic eras, in the sense of the more traditional word heroic, um, with single combat and people doing these kind of amazing Beowulf type things that are borderline mythic, and probably are mythic, or at least, but there's probably a kernel of truth to a lot of those stories. Anyway, a lot of that kind of stuff appeals to me. I find that you can do a lot more mysticism in a more ancient world, yada yada, and that's probably why Sword and Sorcery is typically set kind of in that era, or it's in a kind of a fantastical era that you're not doesn't quite connect exactly to Earth, which I kind of like also. Even as a historical fantasy lover, I like that you can't exactly trace. Like in Savage Kingdoms, I pay a lot more attention to almost historical fantasy. I have a lot of cultures and kingdoms and realms that are kind of reflect sort of a Dark Ages Europe. Well, not only Europe, but also have like Asia and African type continents as well. Uh, and it's still fantasy, right? It's still these are all fantastical cultures and kingdoms and realms and NPCs, etc. But it does correlate a lot with um, real life cultures. Red Sun does that to a degree, but not as much. I don't worry about it as much, and I kind of like it. Almost gives me a more freer uh, kind of approach in some ways to focus a little bit more on the things that make Sword and Sorcery stand out, which is a lot of action, a lot of vibrant scenes, fantastical elements. Yeah, really cool stuff like that. So I just want to announce that Red Sun, I'm pretty sure, I don't think it's official. It probably is official. Will be published by Mad Scribe Games also. If Mad Scribe Games sees this, particularly Chris, my buddy Chris, from a long time ago, we kind of reunited over the last few months because I discovered that he has a publishing company, a small press company like mine, but his is more like that's what he does. Whereas I do more design, he does more. He does some design work as well, like he's done Ankur, which is his. It's like a Mesopotamian meets alien, kind of like the Anunnaki. It's really cool. But I think he does focus more on publications, where I focus more on design, and I like to have other people publish it, so I don't have to deal with it. I was a graphic designer a long time ago, and so I at least kind of understand what's going on. But I'm so behind in the technology, and I don't want to relearn it. I don't have time between being an actor and a game designer and a teacher and a tour guide, all this stuff. I just don't really have time to relearn something else. So, Mad Scribe Games should be publishing Red Sun. I would say there's a 90% chance. I just realized as I was talking about, it, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if we ever officially like. I don't think there's any kind of like contract. I mean, there's not with SK either. It's all very verbal because again, I know the main guy from Mad Scribe, Chris, and we kind of go way back. And there's a good deal that we, it's all figured out. So I'm pretty sure he'll publish Red Sun as well. If not, I'll either not publish it or maybe attempt another crowdfunding project. But anyway, that's my point. I don't have to kickstart anymore because I'm kind of really kind of burned out on after like 7 Kickstarters. Um, when we can, Mad Scribe will actually publish this stuff. I don't want to give away what the plan is, and it's definitely not for free, but it's like a deal that is all kind of worked out. Uh, Meaning it doesn't really require any extra fundage, a little bit maybe up front, but not nearly as much as would be needed from a crowdfunding project. Having said that, I might do a Kickstarter maybe in a few months to just raise money for art, to gain art, because right now I'm using, and nobody panic, nobody freak out. I had somebody freak out already. I'm using AI art currently as a placement, or I use that for placements. I mean, I use other stuff from the internet. It's all in my document, playtest document, to show where the art will go. I want to be very clear with that because I had somebody like a year ago. Well, I will not be buying your Product. I'm like, well, you obviously didn't listen to what was being said. It was being used as a placeholder, nothing more. So, having said that, I know AI is becoming slightly more accepted, and that's great. But no, that's only for placeholder. The only art that has any kind of AI at all is my own art that I actually drew out. All the maps of the setting is literally my art. Um, and I might tell AI to enhance it to make it look like a parchment style. That's literally it. So it is literally my art with like a little phase of parchment that I could probably do anyway in some graphic art design software. So, all right. Having been said with all of that, get all of that out of the way. Um, yeah, so Mad Scribe Games will be publishing Red Sun, like I said, 90% chance, 95, maybe 100. I don't know. Likely. Um, Mad Scribe's pretty backed up right now. They're doing some, which is awesome for Chris and his company, doing stuff from. I'm not Well, I won't say because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to. Anyway, he's got some projects lined up that are awesome. And then eventually get to Savage Kingdoms or Red Sun. I'm not sure which one first. I might have him do Red Sun first, only because Red Sun is new and Savage Kingdoms already has 3 editions. On the other hand, SK4 is doing really well. I'm really happy with it, even more than like I was really happy with SK3, and then I made even more improvements with SK4E. I think it's much more solid game. The math is better. All the game designy stuff. If you know anything about game design and mathematics and flow and pacing, it's all. I feel like it's there. It's like obviously it's not perfect, but nothing is. And Red Sun, I think, is pretty solid as well. It uses a D8 dice pool system. If you haven't seen past videos where I talk about the game system of Red Sun, it's a D8 dice pool system. It's very simple. There's a difficulty rating or a target number, and usually they're from 4 to 8, usually 5 to 8, but 4 sometimes comes up. Um, and that's the target number. And if say if you're rolling 46, you have an ability to roll 46 for this particular test, is what we call them. A lot of game systems call them checks. Some just call them dice rolls. Like in SK, we just say rolls or skill rolls. In Red Sun, I've chosen to call them test. I don't know. I just think that's kind of cool. A lot of other games do that too. It's not a big deal. But anyway, you make a test, right? Whether it's an agility test, a mind test, a spirit test, etc. And you're rolling that many dice that you have that ability in. So it's basically your trait, which is usually 1 to 3, and that equals the number of dice. And then you might have a talent that boosts that one or two more, maybe sometimes 3 times if you have higher advancement. Maybe you're rolling 4, 5, 6 dice for a particular thing, and you're just looking at how many successes you have against that target number. That's it. So if it's target number 5, we'll say, which is average difficulty, and you're rolling 40, 48, and say you get 2 5s or higher. Those are 2 successes. So levels of success definitely don't always mean necessarily anything. You definitely can. There's a lot of games that are gaining more popularity out there, such as the Powered by the Apocalypse is definitely a good example to where they use these kind of mixed these like levels of success systems, and sometimes there's like a mixed result, which is really cool. You succeed, but something kind of bad happens. You could do that with this system. If in fact if you have a marginal success and stuff, it is said that it's an optional role that the GM can say that you succeed, but this minor little thing happens. You have to be careful with that though, because there is something called mishaps in the system, which is when you roll more than half the dice are ones. That is a mishap. And I've spoken in past videos about all of that, so I'm not going to go too much more into it. This video mostly is to focus on the fact that Red Sun is not dead necessarily. I don't think so. Will probably be published by Mad Scribe Games at some point this year because, like I said, they're kind of backed up. And I would like to go forward with it along with SK4E. I just don't know which one first. So right now, as a designer, I'm going back and forth. I get on a kick where, especially lately, I've been doing a lot of SK, which is why, like I said earlier in the video, there's a minor burnout there. But I like to kick back to Red Sun, and I was on a Red Sun kick along like 6 months ago, where I was mostly doing that, and I got a little burned out on that as well. So I think it's healthy to kind of go back and forth. And it's in the same setting; they're just in different ages, or just different epochs, different eras, um, which makes it kind of fresh because the world is similar, the geography, but it's not exactly the same because several cataclysms happened, and it might have reshaped the geography of some areas. Uh, a lot of the kingdoms aren't the same anymore, like they didn't survive. Some of them are, like some of the same cultures and races and territories and kingdoms are still kind of there. They might have been reshaped or renamed over the 2,500-year history. So I've tried to pay decent attention between the timelines of both settings. I've run into a snag or two to where I've had to kind of retro some of my lore a little, just a bit, because I don't like doing that. But I made it sort of tweak, particularly, and I'll go ahead and say what it is. Particularly with the Fey folk, the fairy folk, the Fey, or the fair folk, whatever they're called, many things. The She, which are kind of a big thing in SK, even though they're fading as well. Sword and sorcery traditionally doesn't have like fae and fairy. That's just not. It's a little harder. There's monster demons and stuff like that. You can. It's not necessarily that you can't. If you do, I think the fae or the fairy or the other folk, as I call them, need to be darker and more mysterious, which they are. Anyway, so there's this one thing in Savage Kingdoms where there was a giant Illunashi realm known as Arvalindor, and it was like 3,700 years ago where it broke apart, called the Breaking of Arvalindor. It created the Illunashi and the Darkshi, and the two opposing realms of Kalendril and Lithalor. If you know SK, you probably know what I'm talking about. At least some of the world. So going back to Red Sun's history, trying to put that in there was a little hard, but I kind of made it work, kind of, sort of. Anyway, enough about that. Actually, that's really only the main kind of thing. All the other history kind of work together, so it's really cool. So it's the same setting, different feels. One is technically Dark Ages, medieval fantasy, and one is sword and sorcery. And if you're a hardcore fan of fantasy in general, you know what I'm talking about. If you're a casual fan, you probably really have no idea. It's probably all the same. But there is a kind of a difference in theme and atmosphere and feel and stuff like that, and tropes as well. But anyway, all that to say, all this rambling to say that going forth with Red Sun, most likely 90% chance. I just want to make a video. This is also pre another winter storm video, so I'm just kind of stuck here at home doing stuff, doing some work. I just built a dummy for a stage play I'm directing and performing in, and so just piddling around, and thought I would do this video because it's been a few days since I've really done one. So please like and subscribe, all that stuff. I'm not sure about this channel. I've been trying to kind of pump it up a little bit. I know I don't do anything fancy with it. I probably should. Like, I don't edit. I don't do graphics. Um, I just like to do it raw and just deliver information and maybe a minor entertainment. Maybe I will in the past zip it up a little bit. But anyway, I'm at the verge where I'm trying to make the channel a little more out there and useful. But at the same time, I'm kind of on the borderline of scrapping it because it's just not like it's just not really catching on. I know you have to kind of stick at it. I've been at this for quite a few years on YouTube, and don't make a lot of big effort, like I said, to make it all cool and fancy. But and I'm really taxed for time these days. A good thing, and so I may not really have any time really for YouTube. So if I don't start getting a lot more views, the channel might get scrapped. Maybe, I don't know. And I tried a couple of videos where I'm walking around talking to people out in the woods. We have in this beautiful Western North Carolina mountains area that I live in, which is really cool. And sometimes I like to share that. And I thought those videos would do better, and they haven't really either. Um, which brings me to my next point. So one of the best videos that I got the most views on, like 142, 145 views, was the last Red Sun playtest. So, you look at your analytics on YouTube and stuff. You compare your videos. I don't do a lot of deep dive into it as I don't really have time, but I do like to look at it occasionally, the analytics, etc. And the Red Sun videos tend to be more popular than the Savage Kingdoms ones, which is why it prompted me to kickstart Red Sun a couple of months ago. Because I'm like, wow, it's kind of in the zeitgeist. I think people want it more. And then it was a wonk wonk. I didn't make it. So again, very confusing. Um, so so I went back to SK4, which is again people, at least the people I know, kind of want it. It's a small game, but Um, so and that's kind of went back to focusing on SK4E. But again, going back to look at my video analytics and finding out that the Red Sun ones, particularly the live plays, were twice as much likes or views anyway than the Savage Kingdoms one. So I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm missing here. What's going on? Maybe it's just random. Maybe it's just algorithm stuff. Or maybe people were craving a new game because Savage Kingdoms is like 12 years old now between the three editions. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. If you guys have any advice, let me know down in the thingy, the comments section. So um, yeah, I just wanted to say that about Red Sun and Mad Scribe Games. So cool. All right, be safe out there. Stay warm. We've got another winter storm here in the southeast, heading up into the northeast. Looks like a nor'easter is starting out off the coast of Wilmington. Actually, it's a little further out now, but anyway, producing all this snow. We'll probably get some in the mountains. The last one we had wasn't quite as a big deal as they thought it was going to be. It was like ice and stuff, but it looks like a good bit of snow this time, actual powdered snow, which would be nice. But be safe out there. Thanks for listening to my rambling, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.